All right, welcome back to the One of None podcast. My name is Dr. Andrew Ganung.
I'm your other host, Dr. Jonah Casella.
And Jonah, we're back, man.
We are
We
back.
It's been about a week since we last uh, released a podcast. Jonah and I were discussing what we wanted to talk about on this upcoming podcast, and we usually have a couple ideas floating around, but this episode is going to be talking about goals, all things goals, goal setting, attaining those goals, sticking to the goals, things of that nature. So, this is incredibly important, as is every other topic we talk about on here. And so, we're super excited to start talking about this. Just wanted to thank y'all again for everything, for keeping up and listening to us, posting us. Uh, I've recently stepped back from my personal social media. I will still be posting purely just one of none podcast content. So be on the lookout for that. Follow us at one of none pod on Instagram, if I'm not mistaken. Keep watching Spotify podcasts, the Apple podcasts, and also YouTube. We are posting on there as well. So without further
Yes,
ado,
and also just want to plug the Discord as well. One of None Nation on Discord.
yep.
We post pretty regularly on there, just like everybody else does. It's in that group, kind of updating everyone on what they accomplished that day, which also plays into what we're going to talk about today, the
Yep.
goals.
So, dude, I love this stuff. I mean, we even the most highest achievers struggle with this too, sticking to goals, sticking to the goals that they set out. And I think a good start would be like the initial thing is setting the goals. What is it that you want to accomplish out of it? So let's start there. I think when the way that we were all taught to set a goal was make it a SMART goal. So it has a time frame on it. It has it's attainable. It's very specific, and there are these different aspects to the SMART goals that we set, which is a great start. I think it's a really solid start for a lot of folks who are just trying to like set an initial goal for themselves, because that gives us something that's certainly attainable, and it gives you a time frame to work within. What were you gonna
I
say?
think it's also important. Yeah, I think it's also important that it's a goal you really care about.
Mm-hmm.
So when I was thinking about that, like it's really hard to accomplish any goal that you just don't really care about, because it's so much easier to then quit if you just don't really care about it that much. It's not like as important to you.
Yeah.
Like you have to really take pride and really care about and find importance in the goals that you're creating as well in that
Yeah.
beginning process.
And sometimes, even to play devil's advocate, you're 100% right, Jonah. To play devil's advocate, though, is like there are some goals we have to set that we just don't want to do.
That
Like,
aren't going to
so
be easy. Yeah, for sure.
exactly. Yeah. Like, there's both sides. And obviously, I agree with you. Like, the more important it is to you, the likelier you are to attain it. So, when it comes to the folks out there who are listening, who are trying to get the body they want or get the role that they want, maybe that's it. Making a really good goal for that is going to be more attainable for someone. But to play the other side of it, I set a lot of goals that I really just don't, unfortunately, care as much about. But I still have to do it. I still have to hit
Yeah,
those.
but I feel like it's not necessarily that you don't care about it, or maybe so. I won't speak for you, but I'll speak for me. There are certainly goals where it's not that I don't care. It's just that I know it's not going to be fun,
Yeah.
or it's not going to be like easy, I guess. But I care enough where I know that I'm going to get it done, even though I like kind of dread it.
Yeah.
So maybe
Yeah.
that's different than what you're saying a little
No,
bit.
no, I just had poor word choice. I think that's exactly right. It's like, maybe I don't care as much in
Sure.
comparison to other ones, right? But like, yeah, I mean, because if you're setting a goal, like you have to care somewhat, or else you're just not going to do it.
Yeah.
So
No, I know. Yeah. No, I get what you're saying. Because if it doesn't necessarily have to be like something you're super passionate about, I guess, right? Like I really need to build a deck for the back of my house this fall. Like that's a goal I have that I don't necessarily care about as much as my other goals, but I just have to do it.
yeah, yeah, and so let's say you create the first goal right? That's the first part of it, is making the goal itself. And then, yeah, I think a good part of a smart, quote unquote, smart mnemonic is it has to have a time frame. So it has to be timely, because you have to give yourself a deadline. Okay, I can reach it by X time. I mean, how many of us have said, like, I'm going to start, I swear I'm going to read a book every 2 weeks. And then what happens? Like, life happens, and then you get lazy, and then did you give yourself a proper timeline? You just said that you want to read a book within 2 weeks and start doing that. Like, how are you going to do that? Does that mean you're going to break it up by 20 pages a day? Okay, that's a different story, right? Like,
Yeah. You
we
have
have
to
to
like
start creating.
actually break it down and plan it out. Yeah,
Yeah,
no, you're totally right. I didn't even think about that, but that's a really good point. Because if you just like you said, not even think about it, and you're like, yeah, it's a couple weeks, like a book every couple weeks. But like if you don't actually think about it and you just jump into it, like a week flies by and you for like 100 pages into a 300 page book, and you're like, I didn't really plan that out very well. Which is
yeah.
another part of it that we'll get into is the actual like planning. Why planning is so important. But I don't want to jump the gun. Sorry, I mean interrupt you.
No, no, that's good. I mean, sometimes I used to be the worst goal setter. I think it wasn't until I had people who taught me how to set realistic goals. Honestly, it was my boss and my leadership team that really taught me, like, I'm going to set these goals for you because I know from a oversight point of view, I have an oversight on you, and I know what the clinic should be doing. So based off of my knowledge on that, I'm going to set these goals because these are going to be attainable. And quite literally, they created it in such a structured way that I know what I should be doing on a daily and weekly basis. And so that's the way a goal should be set. And it really takes practice to learn how to set goals. I mean, I'm not going to say that I'm the best because I'm just using what the goals that they created for me, but I still set my own goals with regard to other things. And
And
you have
and
to be smart about it.
that's a really good point. You're right. That is definitely something that takes time to develop how to properly set goals based off of your observations of yourself or like yeah, like a business or something that's actually attainable and how to plan that out. Like think about coaching. Like there are literally people that pay coaches to set training goals up for them. Like that's so complicated to come up with like daily goals and daily trainings and whatnot. So yeah, like there's people that literally pay other people to do that. So
Yeah.
yeah, that takes a lot of time to develop good goal setting.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's probably, it takes a lot of practice, first and foremost. But yeah, and I told y'all that I would be doing 75 hard, and I know Jonah wants to be doing it so bad with me. I started at a very poor time in relation to what's going on in his life. So Jonah will be doing it. Let me preface it by saying that we were supposed to do it together, but due to the circumstances, I actually finish up 75 hard a day before his wedding. So I'm going like clean until that. So we'll definitely be indulging on the day of your wedding, Jonah, but official wedding, let's say that, the ceremony. But
Mhm.
um, that being said, I had to, even though it's pretty clear cut what I'm supposed to be doing for 75 hard, I still had to plan out everything, and I still had to set the goals within the goals. So one of them is drinking water, which is a really difficult thing for me. If you're watching this, I carry around this or my Yeti or a shaker bottle pretty much every day in the clinic, regardless, but to actually go and do it. So I'm doing it. I'm drinking like two of these hydro flasks a day before 12. So, and then I'm doing the other two after work. And so like I still have to stay structured in that. So that was like pretty difficult for me. So I had to set goals within goals. Now we're kind of going down a loophole right now, but you have to, even with the big monstrous goals, you're going to have small subsets of those goals to make sure you're staying on track.
Yeah.
Um, and Jonah, I mean, I have just a question for you. How were you taught to set goals? Because I know that with our growth mindset, we tend to set pretty monstrous goals. And I just wanted to get your take on it, on what's what's better. Is it better to set a massive goal, or is it better to set a less big goal but know that you're going to hit it?
Yeah,
In
that's
your
a good
opinion?
right. That's a good question. I'll speak from it from two sides. So I'll speak from my side, which is somebody who has been setting goals big and small for a long time now. Um, Nowadays, I feel like I set bigger goals and I plan and create smaller goals to accomplish the bigger one. So I feel like that's kind of where I'm at in my life now. But I'll say for somebody who's starting out or like somebody who's really young, it's much easier to be consistent with goal setting and accomplishing by setting small goals, daily goals, and like multiple goals a day. So like just off the top of my head, like you're trying to be more structured in your life is like your main objective or something like that. And so maybe your daily little goal is to like make your bed every day. The first thing you do is you get up and you make your bed and boom, one goal, you already knocked it out for the day and you just got the ball rolling. So I feel like for younger people or people just starting out with trying to develop a good goal setting habit, maybe start small, build it up into bigger goals and do it that way. But yeah, so now that's a good question. Now I feel like everything I do is like that we do is bigger stuff. And then we
Yeah.
just have learned to set smaller goals to accomplish it along the way.
I would agree with that 100%. And you played both sides, which is good because there is truly both sides. Because you don't want to set a massive goal and then just like be like, this is way too big. I'm not going to be able to stick to this and then just fall out of it. There's no point.
Yeah.
So I think there is a progression to it where you start out small, you learn how to set those small goals and attain those small goals. And then if you can get consistently strong at doing that, then maybe it's time to set bigger goals. But the way that I think about it is, and all of y'all have probably heard that analogy before, is like, well, if I set a huge goal, and I know I'm probably gonna, maybe there's a small chance, there's like a 10% chance that I can attain that goal, but a 90% chance that I'm gonna fall short of that. You're falling short much further out than you would if you had set a smaller goal, if that makes sense.
Mhm.
So yeah, like let's say for all intents and purposes, I was trying to set a goal of losing 20, 30 pounds, let's say 30 pounds. And maybe that's unrealistic in 2 weeks. It's incredibly unrealistic in 2 weeks. I'll just say that. You're not going to do that in a healthy way by any means. You're probably dying at that point. But um, if you're trying to lose 20 pounds in 2 weeks, you're probably going to be able to cut a decent amount of weight in 2 weeks. It won't be 20. You're still going to fall short, but you're going to be able to do it. And that way, if you're setting that goal of trying to cut that much weight in such a short period of time, you're still going to cut a crap load of weight, but it's not going to be 20. So at that point, you're able to achieve probably more than you would have if you said, I'm only going to lose 5 pounds in 2 weeks. So the analogy that I think of in my head is if you give yourself a day to clean your room, you'll clean your room in a day. If you give yourself 30 days to clean your room, you're going to clean it in 30 days. And I think that's incredibly true. You do it in the amount of time that you give yourself. And so why wouldn't you set a big monstrous goal? Because that way you're gonna crank out so much more work in that period of time as opposed to setting a smaller goal, right? So I like that analogy a lot. It makes it easy for me to think about. Um, I don't use it a whole lot in my business life and the clinic and stuff, but you know, I'll do it in my personal life all the time. Like I'll give myself a day deadline just to get it done because I know if I give myself 2 weeks to do it, it's going to take me 2 weeks. Jonah, I don't know
Yeah.
if you do
No,
that too.
I like that analogy a lot. I never heard of that, but that makes total sense. Yeah. But I do think that, like we said, it is important to set small goals. And I like daily goals. And I think people misinterpret what a goal is. Like a goal can be anything. Like a goal can be really big, like running an ultra marathon and or becoming a doctor or whatever. Or a goal can be really small, like I said, making your bed every day, or also just going to the gym every day. But I think also what the point that you made too before, which was really good, is that if you set a goal that is, if you don't plan right for the goal, then you're much less likely to actually accomplish it. So like let's say that your goal is to or if it's too general too, you have to get really specific about your goals. My goal is to get into better shape in the next month. And it's like, well, what does that mean? Like, does that mean you're going to lose 10 pounds? Does that mean you want to put on 5 pounds of muscle? Like you have to be very specific about what the goal is, really digest it and detail it out. And then the next step after that, like we're saying, is to create a schedule or a calendar where you're actually planning it out. What am I going to do each day to accomplish that? I'm going to eat healthy majority of the time, and I'm going to work out every day. And then that means that each day, now you have at least two goals that you get to try and accomplish, two small goals. And over a set amount of time, by accomplishing those goals majority of the time, then you have a better chance of actually accomplishing what you want down the line. So for me, when I was thinking about goal setting, I was thinking about all the planning that's involved with it. Like think about a really big goal, like a career goal when you're in school, you're in high school and you're planning on being a dentist or whatever. Like if you look at it from, and this is something that my parents taught me, if you look at it from too wide of a lens and too big of an angle, it's way overwhelming. I remember thinking when my dad and I were talking about careers and he was like talking to me about becoming an optometrist, he was like, it's 8 years. It's only 8 years of your whole life. And in high school, you're like, 8 years? I'm like, no way am I going to school for another 8 years. Cause that's all you're seeing is like the big, really big goal. And he was like, don't think about it like that. He's like, you gotta break it down and think about it, just the task that's ahead of you and accomplish, the intermittent smaller goals along the way. And then when you do that and you break it down into bite-sized pieces, it makes it much easier to get to the big far away goal. But
Yeah.
the planning is what's the most important part of that. If you're not prepared and you're not planning well enough, then you're going to fail majority of the time.
Yeah.
I think you would agree with that.
Oh, 100%. I like, yeah, 100%. I like that a lot. And that's funny because it depends on the lens that you look at it through. Like, are you looking at it through a very big lens? Like, dude, I think about where I want to be in 10 years and it scares me. It really scares me. And just because I just said that, I didn't even think about me saying that. That's the way it should be. It should be scaring you,
I was
right?
just going
Like
to say
that.
that. Yeah.
I didn't even think about that. I just kind of blurted it out. But yeah, I mean, it scares me when I think about my goals because all of the work that's going to have to go into it. But I know that
That's
everything,
exactly what I was just saying. Yeah.
yeah, but I know that everything leading up to it is also helping prepare me too. So I'm not letting just days go by where I'm not learning something new or trying to put myself out there in a spot that's going to allow me to learn more about where I want to be, because that's an important thing, is staying true to that. While you were talking, I don't know if I'm going to show it. I wrote it on a piece of paper. I was following the route that you were kind of taking it. So at the very top, we already went through our goal setting. Okay. So we set a big goal at the top. I just wrote goal at the top of the paper, and then I drew an arrow that pointed down below it, and I said plan. So in order for us to achieve the goal, you have to have a plan. And then you're going to, underneath that, draw another arrow and then look at the word execute. So now it's executing on it. So I'll stop there at execution, which is probably where a lot of us will fall short of it. Maybe we don't even get to the planning part. But if we do get to the planning part, then that's probably going to be our next barrier, is the execution part, because you have to, based off of your plan, you have to execute on the plan. So did you make it unattainable? Like, are you going to try and do something unattainable every single day, and then you're just going to fail when you try to execute it? You're going to fall short of it every single time. So the plan is in this middle portion of that. Go up top, plan in the middle, and execute on the bottom. So that plan has to be really dialed in to make sure that you're going to be able to execute on that plan on a daily basis or a weekly basis. So are you writing a plan that's attainable for you? Maybe you wrote a goal that's attainable, but maybe the plan is unattainable based off of your lifestyle. If I say the goal of losing, what's a good goal? The goal of making 10 grand in a month, let's say, it's 100% doable and you have the resources out there to do it. And let's say you have, like, maybe you're at 8K a month and you just need to make 2 more grand a month to make it to 10K, but you're exhausting all of your resources. You have four kids, you have a wife that needs to, you have work that you work 12 hours a day, and you have all these other things that you're invested in. Maybe at the time in your life it's not super attainable for that, right? So like making sure that the plan is super dialed in is going to be important, but execution is where we fall short a lot. And maybe it's coming down to the fact that you're not feeling it's important enough to you, or you can do it at another time or push it off for another day. And then you fall down this really dangerous path where you just feel like I'm just going to put it off for a while and reinvest my time in it at a different time. And then it's just never happening, right? And so there's so many different elements to executing, but I think that it comes down to making it a non-negotiable for you. If it truly matters, and let's say you do everything else right, the goal is set, the plan is really set in stone, and it's super attainable, and now you to just execute, but you won't execute because you're not super into it, or you feel like your laziness is catching up to you or something like that. You need to, that comes down to like your mindset and how you talk to yourself, or how much it really cares, or how much you care about it.
Yeah,
So
absolutely. And before I forget, I just want to say something too that plays into this, is that in that planning part, and why it's so important too, mentally as well. Because I don't know about you guys, but this is how I am. If something comes up that I have to do in my day that I didn't plan for ahead of time, it really throws me off a little bit. Like it stresses me out. Like today, let's just say, for example, I got off work at 7, get home at 7:45. I know we're gonna be doing the podcast tonight. I got to eat dinner and then we're doing the podcast. If like something came up, like somebody wanted me to call them, or like I had to take a call or had to go do something, that would just throw such a wrench in it. And the same goes for if you are trying to, I'll use a physical example, get in better shape. And so your plan is to like get in better shape, but you don't really plan it out well enough. Like, what are you going to work out today? Like on a day to day basis, not just, yeah, I'm going to work out, but like, what movement are you going to do today? And then the end of the workday comes around, and you're like, oh, yeah, I need to go to the gym, but I don't even know what I'm gonna do. And then you start getting in this like weak mindset where you're like, I didn't really even plan anything, so maybe I'll just take the day off. Like, and that's what Andrew's saying, where you get into a bad loop doing that. You have to really. That's why it's so important to just mentally prepare yourself and plan each day out, so that it makes it so much easier to stay on top of it, and to not slip up and skip out.
yeah, great point, dude. I mean, that was perfect timing for that, because it made me think of something. I 100% agree. Like, the plan is so important, and you have to make sure that you accommodate for other things that could potentially happen. So, for example, like I have a former patient of mine. She was a younger high school gal. I got to know her family really well. Most of her family came in to see me, but the one daughter of the two, they both saw me, and one of them plays volleyball, and her mom texted me like, "Hey, I want you to come and see her game. Here are the dates." And one of them is there's like one or two a week, and with 75 hard, I'm working out twice. I am sometimes doing the pod on top of that, and I have other priorities in my life and people I need to have conversations with at the end of the day and things like that. So it comes down to like, if I want to do this, I'm gonna have to get up at like 4, because the game's gonna be an hour long, and that's time that I would have spent working out, and I can't not go to bed at the normal time, or else I'm miserable the next day, and I can't like suffer on that. And even at that rate, I'm gonna still be getting little sleep, because I have an hour and a half worth of working out to do, and one of which has to be outside. So I'm thinking about like, how is this going to happen? But the only way it's going to happen is if I go to bed incredibly early the night before, wake up, go to the gym first thing in the morning at like 4 or 4:30, get one of my workouts done, go to work, get another workout done after work, and then go to the game and make it back home in time to you know what I mean? But that's what I'm talking about. And I know it sounded like a lot for everyone listening, but do you see the planning I had to do just to achieve one thing, which was just go to a simple game in a busy day of mine? So, and that's important to me because those people are important in my life and in my career. And so I want to make sure that I'm supporting those people as well. And as selfish as your life can get and all the priorities you have to do, you're not the only person on this planet, right? Like there's other people out there that need you, not beyond yourself. So it's not super attainable to think that you can just do everything every day only for yourself. You have other priorities, especially if you want to continue to have the relationships you do. So great point on that, Jonah, because I
Yeah.
often neglect that. And so it makes me keep it in perspective of like, I need to make sure I'm planning accordingly.
Right. Yeah, and then another thing when I was thinking about this topic today is, and you actually, I didn't even bring this up to you, but you hit on it when we were talking before this, since you've been doing the 75 hard, how much you're able to get done in a day. And so, like, I wrote this out on my phone just like this, and I'll explain it. Goal, goals equals planning equals efficiency equals dopamine. This is exactly how I wrote it out. And so by setting goals, you plan your days efficiently and effectively, and you become efficient at tackling multiple tasks throughout the day without getting too overwhelmed because you plan for it really well. And so you become very efficient at doing a lot more each day. And then each time you accomplish one of those goals, you get a dopamine kick. And everybody talks about dopamine nowadays and like, how can I increase my dopamine and do this and that? Well, this is how it works for me. When I hit one goal after the other and I'm on a roll and I'm accomplishing all these little goals throughout the day, I get dopamine kicks every single time. And it, like, by the end of the day, when I've had a really long day and I'm tired, I feel so good, even if I'm like dead and sore and like mentally fatigued, because I know that I just crushed every goal that I had that day and I was super efficient and got a bunch of stuff done. So like, and that all comes back down the line, just like Andrew wrote it out. It all starts with making the goal. The big part of it is planning it out. And then, of course, you have to execute it. But then when you do and you stick to it, you feel so good afterwards. It's so worth it in the end.
Yeah,
It's like
dude.
people talk about runner's high too. That's what it is for me. It's like mile 18 and I'm like, yeah, there it is finally. This
Yeah,
whole time it sucked so bad, but man, it feels good. It feels good now.
dude, that's so true. Actually, and this might be, I might be saying this too prematurely. Jonah and I talked about this before we were talking on the phone before the podcast, and I was doing some cardio, and I was like saying exactly what he said. Like I'm squeezing so much more in my day, but I genuinely do feel like, despite how much I have on my plate right now, I am so I'm so energized throughout the day, and I'm honestly loving it. And I this is what I crave when I have the most priorities and goals for myself at once. That's when I'm actually firing at like 100% max capacity. And it is some of the most stressful stuff in your life to have so many goals all at once, but you are also just absolutely grinding every day and you're cranking workout. Like I'm not wasting a second of my day really right now. Like I've to add on a 75 hard, I deleted my social media. I'm only talking to the people that I really care about. I'm not wasting time scrolling. So my day starts at 5 o'clock. I'm reading. I have 20 minutes to read. I get up from there. I go cook breakfast, go to work anywhere from 6:30 to 5 o'clock, maybe a little bit earlier, maybe a little bit later. I go right to the gym, work out, an hour and 15-minute workout, go home, do cardio for 45 minutes. I cook or I eat a prepped meal, and I have a little bit of downtime where I'll work on extra work. There's not a single point throughout my day where I'm just coasting around not knowing what to do. And if you want to feel real dang good about yourself, do that. Set a bunch of goals for yourself. And I'm not saying meaningless goals, like really start to like stack on some goals for yourself and just dive into your work and dive into building yourself. And there's nothing better than, to wrap it all up, but there's nothing better than just knowing that you're pursuing the best version of both yourself and your work. And when you know what you're doing is meaningful and you have a plan and you're executing very strictly on that plan to a T, there's nothing better in feeling more gratitude for what you're doing than that. And when you are really dialed into a goal and you are following it to the maximum capacity and you are not letting anything slide by, that's when you start to really love the process too. Because yes, it can be stressful, but that stuff, knowing that you stuck to something that you set out to do, that's what feels freaking good. And that's what makes you want to continue to set bigger and bigger goals and also feel really proud of the work that you're doing. So it just to sum it all up, it really, like, if you can just figure out a way to get super dialed at what your goal setting is and executing on them, you're unstoppable, man, because you're outperforming everyone else that can't stick to them. So,
Mm-hmm.
and it really does come down to calculation of what you're doing and how you're
Yeah.
planning out your days and stuff like that. So,
Yeah.
Lord knows, as a society, we waste so much time throughout our day. Like,
Oh yeah. Think about that. Think about people. Just check your screen time. Go on your phone today, everybody. Well, if it's early, then don't, because it doesn't make sense. But at the end of the day, check your screen time. I guarantee you that although some of that may be in the middle of this and that, there's definitely a big chunk of that where you could have been doing some other stuff, getting it done.
yeah.
But I like what you said. Everything about that's so true. And every time that you finish another goal, that confidence just builds and builds and builds. So that's one way to develop a lot of confidence in what you're doing.
Yeah.
Keep
I mean,
crushing the goals.
you're holding yourself accountable to what you're doing. And then people also know that when you give them your word, you mean it. And you know you're going to capitalize on what you're doing, which I
Yeah.
love. I mean, that's the stuff that I love. And that says something about you as a person, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yeah. Nowadays, and it's a maturity thing for me too. But nowadays, I tend not to promise anything unless I really, really know that I'm going to do it. Just because I feel like there's so much value in that. But I'll wrap things up, Andrew. Is there anything else you want to hit on?
no, not this topic. No, I think we really did a good job of just wrapping it all together. And I think everyone out there understands that there's a lot of components to goals. So,
Yeah,
hopefully you take a lot of what we said and can utilize it. I mean, it works for us. Lord knows we've also failed a billion times before, so we know what the other side looks like as well. So,
yeah. This is this is tried and tested for sure.
yeah,
But we just we want to say again, thank you to everybody that listens. The few people that do, we appreciate it and we love doing this. So thank you guys so much. Please keep following on Instagram, One of None Podcast. Follow us on Spotify and listen, and or wherever you get your podcast. We're there on YouTube if you want to watch on YouTube, and join the Discord, One of None Nation. Yeah, we can help you stay on track with your goals, because we all post in there when we've accomplished some goals, and also whenever we've come up short, to hold each other accountable. So it goes both ways.
yeah,
But that's all I have. Again, thank you guys so much, Andrew.
yeah. Last thing I want to say, and I haven't talked to Jonah about this yet, so uh, we can talk off pod about this, Jonah. But just came to my head right now. Let us know, or let me know, what y'all would think if we did like a series or something. I think a series would be super fun. And I think that there's a lot of topics that Jonah and I can discuss. We want to have a guest on. I'm still working on it. This dude is a absolute beast, and he's one of the top in the world, in the States at least, when it comes to his craft. So he's a good buddy of mine, and I'm looking to see. I'm still working on getting him on, and if that's going to be a possibility. But be on the lookout for that, and also let us know if you would like us to do a series, like a 2 or 3 part series where we can talk about something and potentially have some guests on. We have guests that are going to certainly be on here, it's just a matter of setting the episodes and making sure that they're topics that y'all would love and resonate with, and stuff that we obviously want to talk about also. So be on the lookout. There's lots of stuff coming. There's tons of stuff coming with this. So be on the lookout for everything. Thank you, everyone, for listening. Jonah.
Yeah, that's all I got. Again, thank you guys, and we'll catch you next time. Peace.
Yep. See you.